Greetings everyone, I'm Kevin, and it's time to do a little bit of a Eurovisionathon reading vlog. I am well aware that this is very late. Today is the first semi-final in Eurovision. In like 2 minutes it's time, and I'm going to tell you as we go along what I think about the different songs, how I rank them, what I think will happen, which songs I really enjoy, which I do not so much enjoy, and so on and so forth. So I prepared for Eurovision that like this. So I have the number 1 to 16, and then here I have all the countries. Very green, I know. Lithuania is the first country up, that's why it's 1 in a circle. So as we go along, like after Lithuania, I will just take this and I will put it where I think it should go. I will probably have to give 2 spaces for each number, I just realized, because these are quite broad. So I just finished watching Malta, so I've watched all 16 performances. Since I am going to travel tomorrow, you will see that in a little bit, I can't see like the voting and all of that because it takes time. But also before I go to bed, it is 22:25. I'm usually in bed at 21. I am not used to being up this late. Now I'm going to bed and I will see all of you tomorrow. Good morning. It's Wednesday, just after 7 in the morning, so good morning. And in a few minutes I will have to go to the station. I live in the northern half of Sweden and I'm going to see my hormone doctor for like gender identity, you know. And all of northern half of Sweden has 1 hospital. So that's why I will have to travel by train to another city to get to like see a health professional in hormone treatment. My entire region, my entire land has just 1 clinic for it. So I will have to go up to Övik, and I am bringing you with me, and for the entire ride I have the rest of my Eurovisionathon books. So I'm bringing Einfach so weg, The House with a Glass Stained Window, and The Lady from Tel Aviv. So this is going to be a little bit of a travel reading vlog. Hi, I just arrived in Örnsköldsvik, and here behind me you see the hospital. That's where I'm going, that's where I have my appointment. But I'm 2 hours early, I'm more than 2 hours early. So I'm just going to go around town a little bit. I don't know how well you can see it, but right here it says Fieldraven, and that is a very famous company in Sweden, like Fieldraven, Konken, this bag. It's from the city, so the biggest factory for it, or not factory, but the biggest shop for it is in this city, and it's that one. Like, it's huge, like it's all of this, all of that. I know a lot of people travel here just to go to the shop because it's the only shop that is kind of like exclusively Fieldraven. So I just think that's kind of cool. So hi again. I just realized I haven't given you an update about my reading. As you saw, I did read some of The House with the Glass Stained Window on the train, and because I have only been walking around the city, because I I don't take buses because of Corona, like not for my own safety, but because I know that there are a lot of people who don't have a choice. They need to take the bus, and I can walk, like I have no issue walking. And so because of that, I have just been walking for the past hour, which is fine by me. But I'm about like 50 pages in, so I'm going to go to the hospital now, and then while waiting in the waiting room I will do some more reading, maybe 10 more pages, I don't know. I just wanted to share with all of you now that I'm in Örnsköldsvik, the absolute coolest building in all of Sweden, and it looks like this. Super cool, right? So hi, so a little update. I read about like 20 pages more, so I'm 70 pages into The House with the Glass Stained Window. I really enjoyed that book so far. And as you saw, I was in the waiting room. I just had my appointment. So now I'm going to the apothecary, or drugstore, or we call it apotek in Swedish. So I'm like apothecary, but I'm going there now, picking up my testosterone. I just picked up my testosterone, which is extremely exciting. So starting tomorrow, I will apply it. I got the gel, so I just have kind of like a salve that I just, you know, smear on parts of my body, like upper arms, thighs. Yeah, so that is exciting. So I'm starting that tomorrow, and now I'm just waiting for the train. It will be like, it will depart from Örnsköldsvik in an hour. So I'm at the station right now, this is just this kind of station, because Örnsköldsvik has a main station, which is the central station, which is the little brick house that I showed by the water. This one is just another one that is not as pretty. But I'm going to continue reading this and hopefully get through it a little bit more, put a chunk in it, you know, until like the train departs. Yeah. So hi, I am back home now. It's 9:30, it's 19:30, so I've been gone most of the day since I left at like 7:10. I am 100 pages into this book, and I'm really enjoying it so far, and I will hopefully finish this tomorrow. I think I'm going to bring it to work so that I have like, that I can maybe read a chapter or two before my student arrives, because my student has to take a train to our city to the school, because that is completely common to do, to take a train to the city where your school is. And because of that, the trains can be irregular sometimes. So sometimes she comes to school a little bit late, but like it's kind of like a private class. It's just me and her, so it's fine. I can wait. I have the entire morning until 12 just for her. So she comes when she comes, and she does what she needs to do, and then we call it a day kind of thing. So hopefully I can read a little bit more in this so that I can finish it tomorrow. I'm planning to finish this tomorrow and maybe start the later from Tel Aviv. I don't know. I do think that Anfangsvek is going to be quicker because it's multimedia. It has like comics, song lyrics, short stories and stuff like that. So I think that one is going to be kind of quick, but plan is to finish this tomorrow so I can start one of the other two books, and I'm going to do just like I did yesterday and talk to you during the entire second semifinal. And speaking of the first semifinal, which I kind of was, only one country made it to the top 10 that I didn't have on my top 10 list. I had 12 countries on my top 10 list, and I knew that I couldn't get all 12 into the top 10. But the only country that I had on my bottom shelf, like I had top 10 and I had bottom, it's Belgium. Belgium was the only country that I didn't have as a top candidate for, you know, going to the final. But other than that, 9 out of 12. I mean, am I surprised? No, not at all. Like, obviously I would have gotten a lot right, only having 3 countries in my bottom and 12 out of 16 in the top. So yeah. But yeah, it's late. I am going to eat something small because I haven't eaten since lunch, and then I will update all of you tomorrow with how it's going and things like that. Hi, I just got home from work. I didn't have a chance to read this, so that is my big plan right now, that I am going to eat lunch and read so that I will hopefully finish this book today so that I can start another one, because like I have 3 books left and I have the rest of today. It's 12 sharp right now. So I have the rest of today, all of tomorrow, and all of Saturday to read. So I'm not, you know, worried that I won't do it or I won't finish all the books. I have 3 books. And I have 150 pages left of this one. I have 250 pages of the Lady from Tel Aviv. And then Anfangsweg is multimedia. So I think that one is going to take me 2 hours, maybe 3 at most. I am definitely going to finish. I am very, very warm. Like, I don't know if you can see that I'm kind of like a little bit sweaty, red face and stuff like that, maybe. It's 15 degrees outside, so like it's so warm, and I know that to a lot of people 15 degrees Celsius is like, that's not warm, but 15 degrees Celsius is summer. I live in northern Sweden. 15 degrees Celsius is very, very warm. We have like, our winters are less than -20 degrees at like normal. Usually it's less than 20 degrees, -20 degrees. Winter here where I live, it's -10 to -30. The coldest it's ever been where I live, as long as I have lived here, the coldest winter that I've lived through in the city was -28. I know that if I would talk to someone in, I don't know, Gothenburg maybe, summer for them would be a lot warmer than 15 degrees Celsius, but me and my students were walking outside in just t-shirts because it's warm. Like, we all agree that it's very warm, which I know is very specific that we are northerners, so that has a lot to do with it. But now I'm going to do a little lunch, make a little lunch for me, spend a little time with my cats, and continue reading. And then I will update you later when I have hopefully finished this, and I will tell you what I think about it. Did it like reach my expectations? Because as you know from my Eurovisionathon TBR video, I chose books based on my favorite song from their country performed in Eurovision. And I picked this based on Jamala's 1944, and I will tell you when I finish this, do I think that this gives me the same kind of vibe? Because in this one we follow 4 women, we follow an unnamed main character who is the daughter, and this unnamed character, at least she hasn't gotten a name yet, and on the back it doesn't say a name for her, so I don't know what her name is. But we follow her great-grandma, her grandma, and her mother. So we have like those 4 generations of women. So we get kind of like stories from around the time, like before World War II, around World War II, after World War II, the 50s, 60s, 70s, the 90s. This, from what I understand and from what has happened so far, this is on the span of 1930s, and it will also come up to the Ukrainian Revolution, you know, when Russia invaded the Crimea Peninsula. So I am excited to finish this. I really enjoyed so far. Like, it's giving me a lot to think about. The weird thing about Ukraine is that Ukraine and Sweden are always and will always be connected, and people mistake Ukraine for Sweden because the flags. Because as far as I know, Sweden and Ukraine are the only countries in the entire world that has a flag that is bright yellow and bright blue. I know that there are a lot of countries that have yellow, blue, and green, or yellow, blue, and something else. But Ukraine is just yellow and blue, and Sweden is yellow cross and blue background. So people, you know, when you watch sports, for example, and you see someone in yellow and blue, you're like, either they're Swedish or Ukrainian. But I don't have anything, I've never been in Ukraine, I don't really have another, like, I don't have any connection to Ukraine except for the flag. The flag's colors. But yeah, I'm gonna finish the book and then I will update you guys. Hi, so I'm about halfway through this book and I decided a few hours ago to write a little bit on my essay for university, and 3 hours later I was still working on it, and so I haven't had a lot of reading done. But I don't know, while reading this I got into thinking about 1944 by Jamala, which, so this I chose because of Jamala's 1944, which she won Eurovision Song Contest in 2016, which I was live for. Or I was live for the recap. Not the recap. The practice the day before. I don't know if that's what it's called. But like when they ran for it anyways. So because of that, I felt like it would be really fun to watch the entire voting from 2016. So I did that and it took 30 minutes. So now I suddenly have 15 minutes left until today's semifinal, which is the second semifinal. So yeah, it still kind of gets me rewatching that, the whole, you know, political tension, that at the end it's the last two, or the two most popular countries that year was Russia and Ukraine, and knowing that one of those two countries is going to be the winner. And we have Ukraine and we have Russia and Ukraine, the song that Jamala performed for Ukraine was about what the Russians did to Ukraine and its people. So like the political tension, because there was this whole debate about 1944, the song, if it was too political or not, if it was actually about Krim or not, and stuff like that. But she performed it, it won, and that whole like political tension and everything like that was, I don't know, it was fun to relive. And I just wanna say this too, which like to me it's obvious, but to a lot of people it's not. And for me, there are a lot of countries in the world that I do not like and that I am fundamentally against because of history, because of its contemporary societies and laws. But that doesn't mean that I'm against the people. So like I am not the biggest fan of Russia, mainly because of how my people are treated in Russia. Like, I mean, the queer community is treated in Russia not very good. And then everything from World War II in Germany, like my family, everyone was scared of the Russians in Germany. At least where my family lived, in the Bundesland where my family lived, everyone was terrified of the Russians. So I always have that kind of thing that I'm like Russians equal bad guys. But that's not true. I am against Russia as a country, not like against its constitution or anything. I'm against its laws and the choices that the politicians continue to make against human rights. That's the thing. And invading Ukraine just a few years ago was not like something that really helped them, you know? And there were a lot of countries that I am fundamentally against because of the way they are, that they don't learn from history, or the politicians are crap, or, you know, whatever. But I still support the people. I still, like, I have that divide, like, just because I don't like this country doesn't mean that I am completely against its people and that I hate the people automatically. That is not the case. I know that a lot of people are innocent in all of that, except for the whole, people who are not. Like, I love my country. I love Sweden and I love Germany. So my two countries, I absolutely love both my countries, but that doesn't mean that I love every Swede or that I love every German, because there are racist idiots in both, and I am not here for that. And there are a lot of, like, I live in Sweden, we have indigenous peoples that are not treated well even now, and I live in northern Sweden, so at least here we talk about them, but in the southern part of Sweden, you don't really talk about the indigenous peoples because it doesn't affect their lives, because our indigenous peoples are indigenous to the northern half of Sweden. Like, now that was a very, like, big generalization, but that is pretty much what it's like. And as I say, I am not against Sweden. I think we have a lot of flaws, but we have free education and affordable healthcare. We have a higher lifespan than in a lot of other countries, and happier, according to statistics, which I don't know how to make those statistics, but that doesn't mean that I love or that I would support every single Swede the same way that I wouldn't support every single Russian or American. I still see there are a lot of good people in countries that I do not like. I don't know if this makes sense. I just wanted to kind of touch upon that because I was mentioning the whole, like, political tense part. But anyways, now I am going to prepare for the second semifinal. But yeah, I will update you later with my thoughts. So while just listening to the songs and stuff, I don't know which song specifically, but while listening to a few songs, I just had, like, I just thought to myself, what taste in music do people have? Like, what is most important to people when they listen to music? Is it the lyrics? Is it the melody? Is it both? And I asked on Twitter, like, that kind of voting thing. And the vast majority voted for melody as the most important thing. And Charlotte replied to that tweet and said that she preferred melody, like melodies first, and if the lyrics are good, then that's a bonus kind of thing. And I replied to it and I said, for me it's the opposite but the same, because I love lyrics, and if the lyrics are good, then it's the most important thing to me is the lyrics and then the melody. But that is not the case for Eurovision, which you will also notice from my list. When it comes to songs on Eurovision, I don't look at them the same way that I would look at music that I find on YouTube, for example. Like, a lot of these songs that I really enjoy on Eurovision, I would probably, had I just scrolled through YouTube and found a lyric video or music video of this song, I would probably not save it in a playlist, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. In case you saw that tweet, I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't get a lot of reading done today at all, so my hope is to read at least one chapter before bed. That is the plan, and I will update you guys in the morning. Hi, I know my hair looks a mess. It is a few hours later. I have 30 pages left of this, so I am definitely going to finish it today. But right now I'm taking a little break from reading because it's hockey, which is why I'm wearing my German flag, because I'm watching Germany versus Latvia, I think. I'm pretty sure we're meeting Latvia. But I always, like, when Germany plays, I always have the German flag, sing the anthem and stuff. I used to have a Swedish hat, like a gigantic hat that was the Swedish flag that I used for Sweden, because when Sweden would meet Germany, I could have the German flag around me and the Swedish hat on top, so I could, root for both countries, but anyways, so I am taking a little break And then in the middle of the periods, you know, the breaks between, there are 3 periods in hockey. So between the periods, it's usually 20 minutes or 15 minutes between each period. So during that time, I am going to continue reading. So that is my plan right now. So watching hockey, because it's Hockey World Championship. I am so happy about that. So I have some good news. Unfortunately, my hair isn't one of them. I have a devil's horn. But I have some good news. First of all, Germany won. It was a very exciting game, the first period, because the first period ended 2-2, and then in the second period we did 5 goals. Germany scored 5 goals in 20 minutes. So we went into the third period with a lot of goals, and we won 9-4. So that's a lot of goals for a hockey game. So I'm happy about that. Like, it was a good first game for Germany in the World Cup. The second good news is I finished this. So I figured we could talk a little bit about it. So The House with the Stained Glass Window is not what I expected it to be at all. I don't really know how to explain it. I can say 2 things. It is not character driven and it is not plot driven. This entire story centers around a town of many names. Lviv, which is its current name. Lviv is the name of like the post-Soviet independent Ukraine name for the city. And then when it was Polish, it was Lvov. And then when it belonged to the Soviet, it was also Lvov, but with a V and not a W. But that's really what the story is about. It's about the city and what it's been through, all of like the different historical eras in the city, stuff like that. A city that is kind of divided. But it's also about these 4 women. We have the great grandma, Abba, and Mama, and the main character who is not named. So I'm just going, for simplicity's sake, call her Daughter for this. So Daughter, we follow Daughter, and it's always her perspective, and she kind of explains about her mama's life, or her Abba is her grandmother's life, and then her great-grandmother's life, and what they went through. And Daughter and Mama are both born in Ukraine, but Abba, who is the grandmother to Daughter, was born in Russia, and the great-grandmother was born in Poland. So they have these different identities, like, towards their nationality. The great-grandma is Polish by heart, and she's always, like, longing for Poland. And then her daughter was born and raised Russian and was Russian. And then her daughter was born and raised in Ukraine, or what is now Ukraine. And her, like, she says in the book, I'm Ukrainian by choice. And she completely switched from Russian to only speaking Ukrainian. And then we have Daughter, and her national identity is never specified. It's never really explored, I would say. But the entire story in this book is her navigating her family, her place in the family, through the stories about them, their pasts, their lives, and their losses and stuff like that, but also finding out about the city. So I would say, like I said earlier, this is neither plot-driven nor character-driven. It is mostly a retelling, or a lot of retellings. I would say it's a lot of, like, explanations of the different characters' lives and different periods in time for the city. I don't know if that makes sense. But I think it's a very interesting, like, I do think it was very interesting, and I did really enjoy this book. This is a difficult book to rate. I think I'm going to give this book 3 stars. Like, it would be difficult for me to sit and tell you the plot of this book, because there is no plot. The only plot in this book is Daughter, the main character, finding out things about the city. So now I only have 2 books left. I have The Lady from Tel Aviv and Einfach so weg. And I think my plan is I'm gonna read and finish Einfach so weg today, and before bed I can read at least 1 chapter of The Lady from Tel Aviv. That's my plan. So I'm going to read this now, and as I said a few times earlier in this video, this is multimedia. It has graphic, it has kind of like a comic part, it has song lyrics, it has short stories and different kinds of things like that. So it's multimedia, so I think this will be kind of quick, or at least a lot quicker than the other 2 novels. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to read now. I'm about 50 pages into this book, and I came across a part that I wanted to read for you because it really, like, I've said this a lot, I picked the book for Eurovisionathon based on my favorite songs from Eurovision performed by the specific countries. So for Germany, one of my absolute favorite songs performed in Eurovision was Michael Schulte's Walk Alone, where he sings about his family. He sings to his dad who is not around, and he's like, but you will never, like, he sings a lot of things about his family, and then he sings, but you will never know because you'll let me walk this world alone. And I just wanted to read to you a little part of this book that really, like, this book, I've said, has some short stories in it, and this short story really resonated with me, and that part, and like the whole thing with the song, so I thought I could read it for you. So when I read this, it really got me thinking about that song, which was the whole point of doing these, like, pick the book based on the Eurovision song, you know? So this short story is called Liebe Raupe, and it says, and this is just like a little excerpt, it says, Du wunderst es, dein Papa ist ja jetzt eine Leiche und du dachtest immer, Leichen sind so ganz weiß, aber Papa ist gar nicht ganz weiß. Ist bunt, Leichen sind bunt, bunt wie eine Seifenblase. Und die Welt mit Papa ist gerade geplatzt wie eine. Du verstehst die Welt nicht mehr. Aber welcher 10-Jährige soll das auch verstehen können? Jetzt stehst du an seinem Bett und mit ihm ist auch ein Teil von dir gestorben. Deine Kindheit ist futsch. Leider, du wirst keine Lust mehr haben zu spielen. Du wirst es nicht mehr trauen, fröhlich zu sein. Du wirst das Kindsein vergessen, weil du denkst, dass du jetzt sofort erwachsen sein musst. Für Mama sein, stark sein, der Mann im Haus sein. Das ist so schade, denn eigentlich erwartet das keiner von dir. That just, like, when I read that, it just really got to me. Like, I felt so touched. Like, you know, I got emotional reading that, and I was like the whole thing with childhood, having to grow up and things like that, that just really resonated with me, and I felt like this fit the song very, very well, and that is just why I wanted to read it to you. Hi, it's after 11 in the evening. It is way past my bedtime. Let's just say that. I am almost finished with Einfach so weg. I really enjoy it. I think there are a lot of, like, cool things, which you saw when I did a little flip through of the book. I think it's a beautiful book. I like the stories in it and the way it's kind of like comics, lyrics, you know, songs, short stories, and different kind of things. And I like that. And I like the stories so far. I have like 50 pages left. And I was like, I'm gonna finish this book before bed, and I kind of feel like I can't keep my eyes focused on words right now, so I will definitely not finish the book tonight, but I have only 50 pages left. So I will definitely finish it tomorrow morning so that I can start the Lady from Tel Aviv, which I will hopefully finish before Eurovision, the grand final tomorrow evening. Yeah. So this is just me saying good night to all of you, and I will see you tomorrow. Hi, good morning. It's 11:15 in the morning, I guess, and I finished this, so I just finished Einfach so weg. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I think it was really beautiful, like the entire setup of it I really enjoyed, and the stories were also very like, I really enjoyed this book. And now I have a few issues because first of all, I have all of this left, and it's 250 pages, around 250 pages. And in a little bit, like just after 11, it's been like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, like something like that, it's hockey again. So this time, unfortunately, Sweden and Germany play at the same time. They're not playing against each other, but they're playing at the same time. Which is absolute, like, in this case, I love that because it means I will not have, like, 4 hours that I can't read this. But now it's at the same time, meaning it's shorter. Like, 2 games at the same time means that it doesn't take as long than if it had been 2 games at 2 different times. But just like yesterday, I'm going to read this in the period breaks. This is the second book I've read for Israel, and the other book that I read was from an Israeli perspective, where she fell in love with a Palestinian man, and it was kind of like the conflict between Israel and Palestine from her perspective, and this one is from the Palestinian perspective. I'm going to read a little bit in this before the game begins, and then I will update you as I go along in it. Hi, so it's 15:30 right now. I finished the games. Honestly, I really recommend being multinational because Sweden lost for 3. So Denmark scored 4 and Sweden scored 3, so we lost by 1 goal. Germany won 5-1. So I really recommend the whole like having multiple countries, because when one country is not doing well, you can just forget about them and go to the other country that you are like, that you love equally. So yeah, I was very happy to have Germany. And I started reading this. I read this in between the periods. I'm about 60 pages into it, and I have a lot of thoughts. So the first 60 pages of this book is a prologue. And what this is, it's a chapter from the mom's perspective, finding out that her son is returning to Palestine. And we kind of find out what it was like for her these past 39 years since he's been gone, and the things that happened to her neighborhood and to her homes because of Israel. Yeah, so there are a lot of things in this that I think is extremely important. I think a lot of things in this is extremely important, especially that first chapter is extremely important to know from an inside perspective what it is, like what actually happens to them, you know. As I said, Rabi Al-Madoun is Palestinian, and he wrote this book in Arabic, and then it was translated to English, obviously. And the second chapter in the prologue is Walid, the main character. It's the day or the days before he left Palestine 40 years ago. And so we have these 2 images of where he comes from, Gaza in Palestine. His perspective on it and his mom's perspective on it, which is his mom's perspective is the first chapter in the prologue, and it is contemporary, like around the beginning of the 2000s, from what I understand, at least it's the beginning of the 2000s, while Walid is 40 years ago. So yeah, so now I am just going to start the main book, or the main story. So the first 60 pages was a prologue, kind of giving background to contemporary Palestine and Palestine 40 years ago, to kind of know what did Walid leave and what is he going to come back to, kind of like that. So now we're going to go into the main story with Walid as he is returning from Great Britain and all of that. And we will see when he meets Dana, the Israeli actress, and see what's going to happen, I guess. Hi, it's around 10 to 6 in the evening. I am halfway through this. It's the first one. This one is where I'm at, and this one is 200-page mark. It's just so that I get a sense of where I am in the book, you know? So this is 250 pages. So I only have from this blue thing. Now you can see. So this is how far along I am in this book. Walid Ahman just arrived in Gaza, and he's about to reunite with his mom. So the entire ride, the entire discussion with the women on the airplane is done. And I actually really enjoyed that whole thing, like the discussion that Walid had with Dana, the Israeli woman, on the airplane. I really enjoyed that because, like, Dana talks about herself, her past. She was born and raised in Israel, so she is Israeli by birth, I guess you can say. And that is something that Walid discusses, the fact that some people don't have memories in Israel or in Palestine, or specifically Israel, and they move to Israel, but they don't have a past or connections to Israel except for being Jewish. That's something that Walid discusses a little bit, and this woman, Dana, the Israeli actress, she tells Walid that she had this boyfriend who was Jewish, and she brought him to Israel, helped him immigrate, become an Israeli citizen and everything, and then he decided to leave Israel and not be Israeli anymore, and she was really upset about this. And Walid said, yeah, like, I completely understand where he's coming from, because, like, immigrating to Israel, he's not just becoming Israeli, he's also being part of the oppression of Palestinians. Like, that's something that Walid said. And he also talked about the whole thing with immigration to Israel, that Jewish people have a right of return. It's called something like that, the right of return. He said something like the term. I don't really remember the term, but it was something like the right of return. So Jewish people had the right to return to Israel, and being Jewish, they would get a citizenship, or it would be easier to get a citizenship if you're Jewish. But the right to return, or the right of return to the homeland, Palestine, wasn't possible for Palestinians. Like, he tells Dana, I haven't been to Palestine for 40 years. I haven't seen my mom in 40 years. And she's like, oh my God, are you like a neglecting son? And like, she just assumed that he had completely avoided going home. And he said that it was impossible to go home. Like, I was barred to return home. And he explained that the only way for him to return to Palestine, to see his family, to see the houses he grew up in was bombed and destroyed, but the town and like his home, his family and everything like that, he was banned from returning to them unless he became another citizen. So he got a British citizenship, and it was only through the British citizenship that he was allowed to return to Palestine. And that just really, like, this really upset me. Like, that's just messed up, in my opinion. Like, this got me thinking a lot about Sweden as well. I have said this in a lot of videos. I live in Northern Europe. I live in Northern Sweden, and Northern Sweden is half. The northern half of Sweden is referred to as Northern Sweden. In Sweden, we call it the Northern Land, Norrland. And this is also Sápmi, especially like the northern third, or yeah, like a little bit north of where I live, Sápmi begins, which is called Lapland, or Lapland in English. And this just got me thinking, because we have Sami communities where I live, because the South Sami is my area where I live. And this just got me thinking that because it was the Sami election recently, like the Sami, every Sami in Sweden has their own election. They have their own small government that deals with everything Sami related, everything that has to do with Sápmi, their communities, where they live, everything. And I watched a small video where teenagers asked questions to the politicians of the different Sami parties that they were supposed to vote on for the election, which was a while back. So the election was last year, I think, in 2020. I think the election was in 2020. And one of the questions that the teenagers asked is, are you for an independent Sápmi? And every single Sami party said yes. Every single one. Like, every representative of the Sami parties said yes to an independent Sápmi. And that just got me thinking, because I had never thought about that. But now it's like, yeah, I get it. You know, I get it. Because it's stolen land, and there are books about the Sami and Sápmi called Stolen Land. And now I feel like I support that, to be honest. I support that. If it would ever come up in discussion, if it could ever be a possibility to have an independent Sápmi, I would be for it. I have less than 3 hours to finish this book. I read this much in 1.5 hours, so I feel like I won't have any trouble finishing it. It's very easy to get through. It's very easy to read. It's really interesting. I'm really enjoying the story. And as I said, now Wally just arrived in Palestine. He's going to reunite with his mother, and that's kind of where the chapter ended, before he reunited with his family and set foot in Gaza, and had, like, I think the reactions he's going to have seeing the damage and seeing that the house he grew up in is completely bombed, and the destruction left in the world, like the separate views of this place from 40 years ago when he left, and now everything that's changed, everything that's been destroyed, and the things that have grown despite the destruction. And I think those things will be very interesting and very gripping. At least I think so. And that's where I ended, and I decided I need a break from reading a little bit, so I'm going to take a little break, and then I am going to finish this book. And I have no doubt I will finish this before Eurovision starts. And yeah. So hi, it is 5 to 9. So in 5 minutes, the grand finale of Eurovision Song Contest 2021 is going to happen. So the question is, did I manage to finish all 6 books? No. I was a little bit too optimistic, I feel like now. I have around 50 pages left. So, but I am not counting this as finished. Like, obviously I don't count it as finished. I did not finish it at the time that it was supposed to be. Like, the deadline is in 5 minutes. I am not going to read 50 pages in 5 minutes. No, that is impossible to do. But I do really enjoy this, and it took a lot longer for Walid to come to reunite with his family, because there are a lot of things that Palestinians have to go through before they can enter Palestine. And yeah, there are just a lot of kind of eye-opening things in this. I would say there are a lot of issues that I think are just dehumanizing out of the things that I have read so far. But as I've said, I haven't finished it, but I am going to finish it tomorrow. And even though Eurovisionathon will be over tomorrow, I still want to update you when I finish this book. Because, like, what's the point if I just leave you hanging after this, you know? So tomorrow I will update you about that book. But right now it's time for Eurovision. They're going through the jury. Sorry, my English. I am lying here with my little girl because it's past midnight and I am exhausted. Iceland was awesome. Like, the Icelandic jury representative, absolute perfect. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And so far, Switzerland is in the lead right now with 206 points over France. And I hope Switzerland will win. I'm like, I want to say cross my fingers, but in Sweden we don't cross our fingers, we hold our thumbs. So I'm like, cross my fingers, like looking like I'm about to fight, you know. But I'll hold my thumb the Swedish way and hope that John's Tears will win. Yeah. Okay, so this was extremely nerve-wracking and oh my god. Like, the voting process on Eurovision is just so there are no words. Like, you're just sitting there like, oh my god, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? What is going to happen, you know? Yeah. So, like, the suspense is insane, you know? And honestly, the first 0 points. 0 points. Like, the first 4 countries that they brought up got 0 points, and I felt so sad for the United Kingdom because he got 0 points by the jury and 0 points by the public. And like, the Swedish commentator said that it would have been better to just skip the ones who got 0 points instead of, you know, announcing it that way. And I think I agree, like getting the 0 pointers out of the way, not making it into a big deal, not making it, you know, a big announcement. So just, you know, for the participants' sake, I feel like it's a lot better to just not having like, you got 0 points, and just having the 0 pointers out of the way, and they just see their country becoming gray and then moving on to the next country, you know. Like, I feel like that would have been a lot better. Or the first country that got points, you know, something like that. It's 1 a.m. I have to go to bed. So I am going to sleep. Tomorrow I am going to finish the Lady from Tel Aviv. So good night, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Hi, good morning. It's Sunday. It's just before 1 in the afternoon. And I just finished the Lady from Tel Aviv. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I do think it's strange that it's called The Lady from Tel Aviv, because I don't think the book is actually about the Lady from Tel Aviv. Her role in this book is very, very small. I think this is very important because it gives kind of like insight from a Palestinian perspective about what happens in Palestine and the differences, the changes that has happened before, like these 40 years that Waleed, like when he left Palestine and when he came back, everything that changed, how people changed, what happened between Israelis versus Palestinians and things like that. I don't want to go into any more like details. I do recommend it. I think this was very important, and I am giving this 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a very like quick read, even though it was very difficult. I do think that this was very, as I said, important, and I love learning different perspectives as much as I can, and this was very like insightful into like an inside perspective. I really appreciated that in this one, that there was that commentary, and we saw how people changed, and we saw how Walid reacted to those changes, and to how everything changed in these 40 years that he's been gone. And yeah, I'm giving this 5 stars. And before I wrap up this video, I just wanted to mention a little thing. I didn't know about the Eurovision boycott. I just wanted to say that this morning when I scrolled through Twitter and there was a lot of things about Eurovision, I came across a tweet that said that all we had to do was boycott Eurovision. And I hadn't heard anything about boycotting Eurovision. So I looked into it, and apparently Palestinians have been urging people from around the world to not watch Eurovision, but that I didn't know about that. I completely missed that. It wasn't on my feed. It wasn't like, I didn't come across that anywhere. So I really want to apologize. I didn't know about the boycott, and I'm sorry that I didn't, because I think, like, obviously had I known, I wouldn't have watched. Like, it wasn't that important to me to watch Eurovision. It was more like a fun thing to do for this vlog. So had I known about the boycott, I wouldn't have watched Eurovision, to be honest. And I just think, I apologize. I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that now. I just want all of you to know I'm sorry. But that is it for this vlog. I hope you still enjoyed it, and please leave a like if you did. And I will see you next time. Good reading. Bye.